Shuklambaradhanam Vitnam Sasivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanjananandanam Veeram Janaki Shokanachanam Kapishamakshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Govindaya Namo Namaha. Namaskaram. Welcome to the 48th session of Narayaneeyam, detailing Ambarĩsha Charitram or Caritam, highlighted in Dasakam 33 by Narayana Bhattadri. You may all recollect in the last session for Dasakam 32, as well as in Sloka 5 of Dasakam 21, Narayana Bhattadri highlighted that Vaivasvata Manu, who presides over the present Manvantara, worshipped the great Lord incarnating as the huge Matsya in the Matsyavatara in the Ramyaka region. Ramyepi Budichi Kalu Ramyakanam Vivarshe Tadvarshanada Manuvarya Saparyamano Bhakti Vatsalam Amatsaragritsubantam Matsyakritim Bhuvananat Bhaje Bhavantam Ramyepi Udichi Kalu Ramyaka Namni Varshe Tadvarshanat Manuvarya Saparyamanam Bhaktaika Vatsalam Amatsara Hritsubantam Matsyakritim Bhuvananat Bhaje Bhavantam. The raga that was just now heard is known as Ramya Panchamam, a derivative of Melakarta 25 Mara Ranjani. Mara Ranjani has been at least used 3 or 4 times by composers over centuries, whereas Ramya Panchamam has been rarely, if not used to our knowledge. The story of King Satyavrata, who was blessed by Bhagavan to become the Vaivasvata Manu, was described in Dashaka 32 during the 47th session of Narayaneeyam, dealing with Bhagavan's incarnation as Matsya. Vamsams are dynasties, lineage or races, both belonging to the sun and the moon, evolved from Vaivasvata Manu's time. In both these lineages, there were many noble and meritorious kings whose stories are worth narrating and listening often. However, Bhattadri chose a special devotee, Ambarĩsha, followed by Bhagavan's 2 significant incarnations as Sri Rama and Sri Parasurama. Before commencing the story of Lord Krishna, which is said to be the only Purna avatara or complete incarnation, and his divine sports or Leela, which Bhattadri was very eager to start and narrate at length. As a precursor to the story of Sri Rama, the author narrates the noble story of one of Rama's ancestors by name King Ambarĩsha. In this anecdote, it is clearly described that any unjust punishment meted out by anyone, even if it were by a holy Brahmana, referred to as a Brahmadanda, ends up becoming not only totally ineffective, but would also trigger a powerful boomerang effect on the inflictor, namely to the extent of punishing the punisher himself, who took an aim at a devotee of Bhagavan. Brahmadanda can mean either the curse of a Brahmana or a Brahmana's staff, danda. Here it means the curse of the Brahmana Durvasa. The story of sage Vishwamitra's fight with sage Vasishtha is well known to all of you since I have mentioned it in one of my earlier Upanyasams in a different context. All missiles sent out by sage Vishwamitra in the fit of rage against Vasishtha were completely absorbed by the danda of Vasishtha, and Vasishtha did not have to do anything else to stop them. Such is the power of Brahma Danda, provided the person who holds the danda is so calm, tranquil, and doesn't have any rage inside. In Bhagavatam, this episode is described in Canto 9, chapters 4 and 5. Let us listen to Bhattadiri's very first slokam now. Vaivasyatakya manuputrana bhagajata Vaivasyatakya manuputrana bhagajata Nabhaganamaka narendra sutopi Ambarĩsha Vaivasyatakya manuputrana bhagajata Nabhaganamaka narendra suto Ambarĩsha Saptarnavavrutamahi Daito vireme Tvatsangishu Tvaicha Magnamanasadaiva Saptarnavavrutamahi Daito vireme Tvatsangishu Tvaicha Magnamanasadaiva Magnamanasadaiva Vaivasvatakya Manuputra Nabhaga Jata Nabhaga Namaka Narendra Sutota Ambarīsha Saptarna Vavrutamahi Daito Pireme Tvatsangishu Tvaicha Magnamana Sadaiva. A brief account of the ancestry of Ambarīsha will be very helpful here. We have seen in earlier dasakams that Brahma came from the navel of the Lord Supreme when he was reposing in the Milky Ocean. Marichi the sage was created by Brahma from his manas or mind. Kashyapa Prajapati was Marichi's son. Vivaswan, which is the other name for the sun, was Kashyapa's son, and Vaivasvata Manu, who presides over the present Manvantara, was the son of Vivaswan, the sun, and hence Vaivasvata. This Manu had 10 sons, the 9th one being Nabhaga. His only daughter was Ila. King Nabhaga was Nabhaga's youngest son. It so happened that Nabhaga stayed in his preceptor's house or Gurukulam for a very long period, longer than the usually stipulated time for any Gurukulam. His elder brothers thought that Nabhaga had become a permanent resident at the preceptor's home, taking the vow of Brahmacharya or celibacy, and thereby he would never return at all. Thus, in their hurry, divided all paternal properties among themselves, leaving nothing for Nabhaga. When the completely knowledgeable Nabhaga returned from Gurukulam and asked his brothers for his share, they all replied in a chorus, "Sorry, we have not divided our father. We have divided everything else. So, father is the only one not divided, so he is all yours." It happens in many families when they have disputes about properties to be divided, which we see even today in the common world. Nabhaga reported this to his father, who then advised him, "Note, Nabhaga, yes, my son, your elder brothers have cheated you. But do not worry, I will tell you what to do for a living and how to become prosperous again." The descendants of sage Angirasa, who live close by, are performing a major sacrifice, as they are not aware of 2 hymns or 2 important mantras necessary for invocation in the sacrifice. They frequently commit errors in the ritualistic course on every sixth day, as you would be careful enough to observe that. You impart to them a couple of shuktas in propitiation of gods and Vishvedevas when they are doing the sacrifice by attending that sacrifice. At the end of the sacrifice, they will all end up going to heaven instantly because of the proper conduct of sacrifice. Once that is completed, at that time, they will surely gift everything that they have. That means all the wealth that they possess, which is not easily describable. All that will be left after the sacrifice because they are only interested in going to heaven. So you can have all of them. You may live with those wealth. Nabaga understood that this was a very sane advice and didn't want to fight his brothers. Accordingly, Nabaga received the wealth from Ambarĩsha at the end of their ritual. When he was about to take possession of the same, Lord Rudra appeared and told him, I have absolute right over all the wealth that is now left at the sacrificial grounds since the sacrifice is complete. If you have any doubt, go and ask your father for clarification on this aspect because it's all mine and not yours. After obtaining clarification from his father, Nabaga returned and told Lord Rudra, Oh Bhagavane, all that is left on the sacrificial grounds is undoubtedly yours. So said my father, and that is the greatest honor to me. Kindly forgive my misunderstanding earlier and the lack of knowledge thereof, so I am willing to go away. I don't need anything. When Lord Rudra heard this from Nabaga, he was very highly pleased at Nabaga's truthfulness and complete lack of aversion at that point. And also, Rudra was so pleased about Nabaga's father's righteous thinking. Sukha narrates to Parikshit in the words of Lord Shiva, Grihana Dravinam Dattam Matsara Parisheshitam Ityuktva Antarhito Rudro Bhagavan Dharma Vatsala. O Nabaga, now you may take all the wealth remaining from the sacrifice. I don't need anything from you. I was only testing you. Since I am now gifting them to you completely, no one can have any counterclaim. Nabaga earned Lord Rudra's blessings concurrently along with all the wealth. Ambarĩsha, the protagonist of the story of this Dasakam, was the son of the great Nabaga. Ambarĩsha was the sole king of the entire globe consisting of 7 continents surrounded by the 7 oceans. He was endowed with inexhaustible wealth, luxuries, and unequaled power. Yet he was not deluded by the rare pleasures of the royalty and the power which it comes with. Considering all of them, including the power as trivial and temporary and transient, Ambarĩsha lived happily immersed in thoughts of Lord Vasudeva and his devotees. He engaged his mind in meditating on the lotus feet of Bhagavan, his tongue in recounting the virtues of the Lord, his hands offering flowers to great Bhagavan, his ears in hearing the Lord's immortal stories, his eyes on seeing Bhagavan's beautiful forms, Ambarĩsha's nose inhaling the fragrance of the blessed tulasi leaves, that's the holy basil, that had come into contact with Bhagavan's lotus feet, and his feet in circumambulating in the God's temples and head in prostrations to the Lord. The great Kulashekar Alvar sang on all of those in one simple slokam in Mukunda Mala. Jigve Kirtaya Keshavam Murari Pucheto Bhajasridaram Jigve Kirtaya Keshavam Murari Pucheto Bhajasridaram Padidvanva Samarchaya Achuta Gadaga Shrodradvaya Skamshunu Padidvanva Samarchaya Achuta Gadaga Shrodradvaya Skamshunu Krishnam Lokaya Lojanadvaya Hare Krishnam Lokaya Lojanadvaya Hare Gacchangri Ukmalayam Jigragrana Mukunda Pada Tulasim जिग्रघ्राण मुकुंद पाद तुलसी मूर्धन्नाम आदोक्षजो. Whatever I said about what Ambarĩsha was doing, the slokam from Kulashekara is very, very popular. Jikhve kirtaya keshavam muraripum cheto bhaja sridharam panidvanda samarchaya achyuta kataha shrotadvaya tvam shrunu Krishnam lokaya locharadvaya harehe gachangri yugmalayam chigragrana mukunda pada tulasim murdannama adokshajam. O tongue, praise the glories of Lord Keshava. O mind, worship the enemy of Mura. O hands, serve the Lord of Shri. O ears, hear the topics of Lord Achyuta. O eyes, gaze upon Sri Krishna. O feet, go to the temple of Lord Hari. O nose, smell the tulasi buds on Lord Mukunda's feet. O head, bow down to Lord Adokshaja, meaning the one who is beyond the reach of senses. புலன்களுக்கு அப்பாற்பட்டவன். அப்படிப்பட்ட பிரம்மஸ்வரூபத்தை பகவான் கிருஷ்ணன் காலடியில் உன் தலையை வைத்து வணங்கு என்கிறார் முகுந்த மாலையில் குலசேகராழ்வார். இந்திரியாணி பராணி ஆகு இந்திரியேப்ய பரம் மனஹ இந்திரியாணி பராணி ஆகு இந்திரியேப்ய பரம் மனஹ मनसस्तु परा बुद्धिः यो बुद्धेः परतस्तु सः. इन्द्रियाणि पराणि आहुः इन्द्रियेभ्यः परं मनः मनसस्तु परा बुद्धिः यो बुद्धेः परतस्तु सः. While explaining Karma Yoga to Arjuna, Krishna says, Indriyani parani ahuhu indriyebhya param manaha manasastu parabuddhihi yo buddhehe paratastu saha. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And the Atman is even higher than the intelligence. In fact, two of the slokams that we see in Kathopanishad amplify the sentiments and if not identical sentiments. These are Kathopanishad, Prathama Mandala, 3rd chapter, slokas 10 and 11. Indriyebhya parahyartha arthebhyascha param manaha manasastu para buddhihi buddhehe atma mahatparaha. Indriyebhya parahyartha indriyebhya parahyartha arthebhyascha param manaha indriyebhya parahyartha arthebhyascha param manaha manasastu para buddhihi buddheratma mahan paraha magata param avyaktam avyaktat purusha paraha magata param avyaktam avyaktat purusha paraha पुरुषान्न परम किंचित सा काटा सा परागति. महतः परम अव्यक्तम अव्यक्तात् पुरुषः परः पुरुषान्न परम किंचित सा काष्ठा सा परागतिः. Beyond the senses are the objects. Beyond the objects is the mind. Beyond the mind, the intellect. Beyond the intellect, the great Atman. Beyond the great Atman is the unmanifest. Beyond that unmanifest is the Purusha. And beyond the very Purusha, there is nothing. That is the end, the supreme goal anyone should reach by their penance. Thus, ever engage in the worship of Lord, from which Ambarĩsha derived infinite solace, comfort and happiness, he ruled the earth as instructed by Brahmanas such as great Brahmasri sage Vasishtha. Tvatpritaye sakalameva vitanvatosya Tvatpritaye sakalameva vitanvatosya Tvatpritaye सकलमेव वितन्वतोऽस्य भक्त्यैव देव न चिरात् अभृता प्रसादो येनस्य याचनं मृतेऽपि अभिरक्षणार्थं चक्रं भवान् प्रविदधार सहस्रधारम् येनस्य याचनं कृतेऽपि अभिरक्षणार्थं चक्रं भवान् प्रविदधार सहस्रधारम् त्वत्प्रीतये सकलमेव वितन्वतोऽस्य भक्त्यैव देव न चिरात् अमृताः प्रसादम् येनास्य याचनं मृतेऽपि अभिरक्षणार्थं चक्रं भवान् प्रविदधार सहस्रधारम्. O self-effulgent Bhagavane, Ambarĩsha, an ornament to the family of your devotees, performed all his actions, both sacred and secular, in the administration of his kingdom, in complete dedication to you. Soon, you were immensely pleased with his exclusive devotion towards you. It was this devotion that pleased you more than his other acts like presiding over sacrifices, which he did anyway to propitiate you. Soon, Ambarĩsha's ardent devotion brought your grace on him. Though he did not seek your help, you yourself commissioned your 1,000-spiked discus known as Sudarshana Chakra to protect Ambarĩsha from all dangers when he was threatened. As your devotees are selfless, they don't seek anything for their welfare, but you do take upon yourself their welfare and act accordingly, in fact, in a preemptive fashion. Krishna said in Gita, Ananya chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityavayuktanam yogakshemam vahamyam. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. Sadvadashi vritamato bhavadakshanarto Sadvadashi vritamato bhavadakshanartam Varsham dadau madhuvane yamunopakande Varsham dadau madhuvane yamunopakande yamunopakande Upanyasam sumanasamaгаtim vitanvan pujam vijeshu visrujane pashushakti kotim Upanyasam sumanasamaгаtim vitanvan pujam vijeshu visrujane pashushakti kotim. Sadvadashi vritamato bhavadarchanartam varsham dadau madhuvane yamunopakante patnyasamam sumanasa magatim vitanvan pujam dvijesha visrujane pasu shashti kotim. Bhagavane, intending to please you, Ambarĩsha, along with his dutiful wife, the queen, who espoused identical values like Ambarĩsha and was also immensely devoted to you independently, worshipped you in the Madhuvanam or Mathura banks of the Yamuna with flowers and other materials which are most pleasing to you and with a pure mind free from all desires and anger. His worship was complete with all prescribed upacharas, which are a minimum of 16 in number by convention and constitute different honors, services and obeisance to the ultimate deity. Upachara refers to the 16 types of homage and services. The mode of worshipping the phallic form or linga form of Shiva in the Shiva Purana, chapter 1, 11th sloka. These 16 are slightly different than the usual 16 that we usually offer to our guests. 16 offerings to your guest are, I will just narrate them in sequence. These are known as the hospitality. They are also called Shodashopacharas. Asana, Padya, Argya, Snaniya, Anulepana, Dhupa, Deepa, Naivedya, Tambula, Sitalaja, Vasana, Bhushana, Malya, Gandha, Achamaniyaka, and Sutalpa. These are usually offered to distinguished guests. In addition, Ambarīsha undertook a very stringent austerity known as Dvadashi Vratam, especially dedicated to Bhagavan Vishnu, which comprised the fasting on every Ekadashi day along with the rites of Dvadashi. Ekadashi day is the 11th day of the moon, and this is the day of fasting for devotees. Dvadashi is the 12th day on which the fast is broken after worship of the Lord. For a full year, Madhuvanam, a place sanctified by the holy Yamuna, was chosen by him to conduct the worship of Bhagavan Vishnu. As a part of the observance, Ambarīsha honored great Brahmanas who were Vedic scholars and gifted them 60 crores, 600 million cows to them. As Bhattagiri mentions, Pashu Shashti Kotim. Any ritual conducted without proper mental attitude, even if conducted in a holy place, will always be fruitless as per Dharmashastras. Ambarīsha's proper mental attitude is clearly brought out by the use of the word Sumanasa. As offering of flowers is pleasing to Bhagavan, the word Sumanasa can be appropriately interpreted to mean with flowers also. The expression Samam Patniya is used to show that the accompaniment of the dutiful wife who treads the path of Dharma along with her husband, Sagadharmini, is essential for the successful completion and ensuring completeness of any austerity. When it is said that the gift of one gentle and sacred animal like the cow, giving abundant milk, will bring so much prosperity to the donor, along with enjoyment of heaven for as many years as a number of hairs on a cow's body, why more needs to be said about the result of gifting 600 millions of such wonderful cows to the assembled Brahmanas, adorning them with clothes and ornaments and horns and hooves covered with gold. Tatrata paranadine bhavadachanante durvasasa asya munina bhavanam pravede. Tatrata paranadine bhavadarchanante durvasasa asya munina bhavanam pravede. Bhaktum vritascha sadrupena paratishilo mandam jagama yamunam niyaman vidasyanne. Mandam jagama yamunam niyaman vidasyanne. Bhaktum vritascha sadrupena paratishilo mandam jagama yamunam niyaman vidasyanne. Tatrata paranadine bhavadarchanante durvasasa asya munina bhavanam pravede. Bhaktum vritascha drupena pararti shilo mandan jagama yamunam niyaman vidasyan. The year-long vow undertaken by Ambarīsha was coming to an end on the Dwadashi day of the bride fortnight in the month of Kartika. On the day, the last one of the series of 12 Dwadashis involved in the austerity, Ambarīsha worshipped with great devotion the Lord in the form of Damodara. After feeding the Brahmanas and giving them presents, and with their formal approval, Ambarīsha was about to break the fast when the great sage Durvasa arrived at his residence. Receiving the great sage with customary honors, Ambarīsha invited him for food. But as the sage was yet to complete his midday obligatory rites, Madhyanikam, to be performed before taking any food, the sage started towards river Yamuna to complete the necessary oblations. Being inconsiderate and oppressive to others always by nature, the sage went leisurely to the river Yamuna with the intention of preventing Ambarīsha from completing the year-long austerity by ending the fast within the stipulated time. Rajnata-parana muhurta samapti kedar. Rajnata-parana muhurta samapti kedar. Vareva paranam agari bhavat parena. Vareva paranam agari bhavat parena. Prapto munihi tat atha divya drisha vijanan. Kipyan kruda udhuta jato vitatana krityam. Prapto munihi tat atha divya drisha vijanan. Kipyan kruda udhuta jato vitatana krityam. Vitatana krityam. Rajnata parana muhurta samapti kedat varaiva paranam akari bhavat parena prapto munihi tat ata divya drisha vijanan shipyan kruda udrita jato vitatana krityam. Oh Bhagavani, when Sri Durvasa went to the river, there was only half a muhurta or 24 minutes left of the Dwadashi Tithi. It was necessary to conclude the fast or perform parana during the hours of Dwadashi Tithi itself. Otherwise, the year-long austerity would end up becoming futile. But if the fast was broken before feeding the sage, namely the most important guest, the king would incur the greatest sin of showing disrespect to a Brahmana. This could invite a much bigger problem of a curse from a sage like Durvasa as well, who is known to give curses. The king, who was thus in a dilemma, sought the advice of his priests. They all advised, O king, before the Dwadashi Tithi expires, you must break the fast by taking at least tulasi water. This will be as good as taking food, but you would have completed the parana by breaking one's own fast, and at the same time, since you are not eating anything else excepting Bhagavat Tirtha, you will not be incurring any sin of showing disrespect to the great sage. You can always eat with him. Taking these great words of wisdom of the officiating priest as authority, the king, who was completely engaged in your worship and who always listened to the Brahmanas who were wise men, taking you as the ultimate refuge, Ambarĩsha broke the fast with just a sip of water sanctified with the leaves of tulasi from under the feet of the Murtam which he was worshipping. On the face of it, though Durvasa appears to have this intemperate behavior, this always leads us to satisfactory results at the end. This must be understood by us. In this story also it ends well, making the greatness of Ambarĩsha universally known to the Prapancham. In the meantime, the sage also returned after completing his midday rites. Immediately, the sage came to know by his intellectual vision of the king's act of taking water to break the fast. Well, as usual, Durvasa felt insulted and became terribly angry. With his limbs trembling and shaking with rage and with a frowning face, the sage came rushing, who was not only feeling extremely hungry but also enraged. He thundered at the king, who stood before him with joined palms. Then he shouted at Ambarĩsha, O wicked man, you have done a great sin because of your pride of prosperity. After inviting me for parana, you had the temerity to have broken your fast without offering food to me. I shall forthwith show you the consequence of that unrighteous act. Saying such abusive words, the sage pulled a matted lock from his head and created a female augur or monster from the lock in order to destroy the king. Krityam chatam asidharam bhuvano gagantim abheni vichandrupadihi navadachagombe. Krityam chatam asidharam bhuvano gagantim abheni vichandrupadihi navadachagombe. Vadbhaktavadam त्वद्भक्तभादमभिवीक्ष्य सुदर्शनं ते कृत्यानलोशलभयं मुनिमन्वदादि सुदर्शनं ते कृत्यानलं सुदर्शनं ते सलभयं मुनिम् अन्वदादि. कृत्यांशताम् असिधरां भुवनं दहन्तीं अग्रेवि वीक्ष्य नृपतिः न पदात् चकम्पे तद्भक्तभादम् अभिवीक्ष्य सुदर्शनं ते कृत्यानलं शलभयन् मुनिम् अन्वधावीत्. O Bhagavane, though clearly perceiving the ogress of the monstrous emitting flames and rushing towards him with a sword in hand, making an earthquake right under her feet, King Ambarĩsha did not stir from his place. He was not at all afraid, as he was firm in his faith on you and believed that Bhagavan will protect him no matter what, who had totally surrendered himself and taken refuge at his Padarabindam. In case he was guilty, he was prepared to undergo the necessary punishment ordained by Bhagavan himself. So in that case, he was not either way bothered. In case he was innocent, the ogress could do nothing against him. This was his firm belief of Ambarĩsha, being a bhakta. As he had left all his security and well-being to the care of Bhagavan, he had nothing to do in the whole matter. Such staunch devotion to and faith in Bhagavan made him completely fearless. Seeing your devotee in danger, Bhagavane, you had discussed Sudarshana, which had been given to the king by you earlier for his security. You have carefully planned it and thoughtfully did it earlier. Sudarshana Chakra burnt up the fiery ogress by its very lustre, as a flame would consume a moth. Pragdishtam Vritya Rakshayam Purushena Mahatmana. Pragdishtam Vritya Rakshayam Purushena Mahatmana. Tadaga Krityam Tam Chakram Kruddhahitam Iva Pavataga. Kruddhahitam Chakram Kruddhahikam Iva Pavataga. Chipram Bhavati Dharmatma Shastvatsantyo Nigacchati Kaunteya Pradijani Name Bhakta Pranashyati Kaunteya Pradijani Name Bhakta Pranashyati. Pragdishtam Vrityarakshayam Purushena Mahatmana Dadaha Krityam Tam Chakram Kruddadiham Iva Pavakaha. As fire in the forest immediately burns to ashes an angry snake, so by the previous order of the Supreme Brahman, his disc, the Sudarshana Chakra, immediately burned to ashes the ogress to protect the Bhakta. Suka's words, Prag Drishtam, means Bhagavan knows everything and he arranged for it. I have said in an earlier occasion how Krishna confirmed to Arjuna, Shipram Bhavati Dharmatma Shashvat Shantim Nigarchati Kaunteya Pratijanihi Name Bhakta Pranashyati. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Pratijanihi Name Bhakta Pranashyati. Bhagavan Krishna reconfirms the same sentiment towards the end of Gita 18th chapter. And that chapter has only 78 slokas. In more powerful choice of words. Sarva dharman parityajya mamego sharanam vraja. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma sujahanga. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma sujahanga. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma suchaha. Abandon all varieties of dharma or upaya and just surrender unto me. I have said it earlier also. Don't abandon dharma per se. After having done everything else, don't hold on to them as the salvation. They are not going to take you anywhere. After doing that, surrender to me. When you do surrender, complete surrender, forgetting what you had previously done to reach me, I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions, and please do not fear. Hari-Bhakta Vilasa in the 11th canto, Sri Sanatana Goswami and Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, under the direct instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they write in the Vilasa like this. Hari-Bhakti Vilasa is divided into 20 sections or Vilasas. And the most important sloka is the 676th sloka in chapter 11. Anukulyasya sankalpaha, anukulyasya sankalpaha, pratikulyasya vajjano, dakshishyati iti vishvaso, gotrubhve paranam tata, atmanikshepakarpanye, sadvida charanagati. Gotrubhve paranam tata, atmanikshepakarpanye, sadvida charanagati. Saranagati. Anukulyasya sankalpaha, pratikulyasya varjanam, rakshisyati iti vishvaso, gotruptve varanam tata, atmanikshepa karpanye, sadvida sharanagatihi. Seeing that the ogress created by him was burnt up in a second, the sage Durvasa realized that his efforts were completely futile and started running, fearing that the disgust might harm him next. The Sudarshana Chakram also started pursuing him very closely. Davannasesha bhuvaneshu bhiyasa pashyalne Vishvatra chakramapite gatavan virincham. Davannasesha bhuvaneshu bhiyasa pashyan Vishvatra chakramapite gatavan virincham. Gattala chakram atilandayaditi avantaha. Sarvam yayo sacha bhavantam avandataiva. Sarvam yayo sacha bhavantam avandataiva. Davannasesha bhuvaneshu bhiyasa pashyanne Vishvatra chakramapite gatavan virincham. Kakkala chakram adhilangayati iti apastaha. Sarvam yayo sacha bhavantam avandataiva. The great sage Durvasa began darting across from one world to the other. Wherever he was running, away from the Sudarshana Chakra, he saw the Sudarshana Chakra practically chasing him a few millimeters behind him. When no protector was found anywhere, he got so frightened at heart and seeking an asylum, approached the glorious Brahma. But Brahma sent him away saying, who can overstep the wheel of time, Kala Chakra of Bhagavan, which is none else than Sudarshana Chakra, and Bhagavan is the creator, protector and destroyer of all the worlds, and he has gifted the Sudarshana Chakra to protect his Bhakta. I have therefore no capacity, nor anyone else can save you who have acted with malice against Bhagavan's Bhakta. Then the sage approached Lord Shiva. In spite of Durvasa being a partial creation of himself or Amsa of Lord Shiva, Shiva also made obeisance to you, Bhagavane, and started meditating and ignoring Durvasa and did not try to save him from your Sudarshana Chakra. On the contrary, Sri Shankara said this, Vayam natata prabhavama bhumni yasmin parenyebi ajajiva kosha. Vayam natata prabhavama bhumni yasmin parenyebi ajajiva kosha. Bhavanti kale na bhavanti hidrichaga. Sagasracho yatra vayam brahmamaga. Bhavanti भक्तिकाले न भवन्ति कीदृशा सहस्रतो यत्र वयं भ्रमामः. Bhagavan Shiva said, "My dear son Durvasa, I and Brahma and all other demigods who rotate within this universe under the misconception of our greatness by all of you cannot exhibit any power to compete with the Supreme Brahman who created all of us. Because he is a Brahman for all innumerable universes, all the inhabitants that he created, and everything else came into existence because of him and are annihilated by the simple direction of the very same Brahman." We all know about Purusha Sukta Vakyam. Etavanasya mahima atojjayahum sapurushaha padohosya vishwa bhutani tripadasya amritam divi. The Purusha is greater than all greatness that can be expressed by words. His one part has become all these visible worlds, and his three parts rest in the immortal world of the transcendence, unknown externally. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, Krishna says in slokams 20 to 40, "Yes, Arjuna, I'll tell you of my splendorous manifestation, but only of those which are prominent, since my opulence and avatars and incarnations and reincarnations are all limitless. Mrityuhu sarvaharashyaham udbhavasya bhavishyatam kirtihi shivakcha narinam smritihi medadritihi kshama." Krishna says to Arjuna, "I am all devouring death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. Kirtihi shivakcha narinam smritihi medadritihi kshama." When the Supreme Brahman approaches as death or the supreme controller of time, that Brahman takes everything away. In other words, all opulence, all prestige, and everything we possess temporarily is given by the Supreme Brahman for some purpose. It is the duty of the surrendered soul to execute the orders of the Supreme at all times. No one can disregard him or the law of dharma. Under the circumstances, Lord Brahma refused to give shelter to Durvasa Muni from the powerful Sudarshana Chakra sent by Bhagavan. It is rather ironic that Durvasa, one of the sons of Atri through his wife Anasuya, happens to be the younger brother of Lord Dattatreya, as per Bhagavata Purana, Canto 4, Chapter 1. And the same Durvasa is an Amsa of Shiva, brother of Dattatreya and an Amsa of Shiva. When Parikshit asks Sukha about this apparent anomaly, Sukha gives the truth out. "Atrehe patni Anasuya trinjajne suesaha sutan dattam durvasasam somam atmesa brahma sambhavan." Anasuya, the wife of Atri Muni, gave birth to three incredibly famous sons. One was Soma, another was Dattatreya, and the third one was Durvasa. Dattatreya is considered to be one of the 24 incarnations of Lord Vishnu himself, whereas Durvasa is an Amsa of Shiva who happens to be Brahman's other avatar or Brahman's other part, who were partial representations of Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and Lord Brahma. Soma was a partial representation of Lord Brahma, Dattatreya was a partial representation of Lord Vishnu, and Durva was a partial representation of Lord Shiva. This is how Sukha describes. Bhuyo bhavan nilayametya, bhuyo bhavan nilayametya munim namantam, prache bhavan aham rishenanu bhaktadasaha, prache bhavan aham rishenanu bhaktadasaha, jnanam tapaccha vinayanvitam, jnanam tapaccha vinayanvitameva manyam, yahi Ambarīsha padameva bhajeti bhuman, yahi ज्ञानं तपश्च विनयान्वितमेव मान्यं याहि अम्बरीशपदं याहि अम्बरीशपदमेव भजेति भूमन्. भूयो भवन्निलयमेत्य मुनिं नमन्तं प्राचे भवान् अहं ऋषे ननु भक्तदासः ज्ञानं तपस्य विनयान्वितम् एव मान्यं याहि अम्बरीशपदम् एव भजेति भूमन्. O Lord, when Brahma and Lord Vishnu thus expressed their inability to help the sage Durvasa, having no hope of getting any help from any other quarter in this prapancham, the sage ran to your abode Vaikuntha, the last resort, and surrendered at your lotus feet. Sudarsana was on hold, but will not leave him even then, just standing millimeters away from Durvasa, waiting for the final instructions of Lord Supreme. O Guruvayurappa, you then told Durvasa, Aham Bhakta Paradino hi aswatantra iva dvija sadhubihi grasta hridayo bhaktaihi bhakta janapriyaha. It's a beautiful statement. Bhagavan Vishnu tells Durvasa, Hey Durvasa, I am like a servant of Ambarĩsha, Bhakta Paradina, subservient to and dependent upon my true devotees like Ambarĩsha. I am completely under the control of those fellows like the very Ambarĩsha. Indeed, I am not at all independent. I am dependent on them. Because my devotees are completely devoid of any material desires, they do exactly what I feel they should do. I sit only within the core of their hearts. What then to speak of only my devotees? Even those who are devotees of my devotees are very dear to me. Not only my devotees, their devotees to devotees and devotees to devotees. The last devotee in the chain is also very dear to me. It is now clear when in Srimad Bhagavatam Sukha says, Bhaktaihi Bhakta Janapriyaha, why great Kulashekara Maharaja said in Mukundamala Slokam 27, Mad Janmanaha Palavidam Madhu Kaitabhare, Mad Prarthaniya Mad Anugraha Yesha Eva, Tad Britya Britya Paricharaka Britya Britya, Brityasya Britya Itimam Smara Lokanatha. Look at how many Brityas are there. How many servants? Why do we use so many? Why did Alvar use them? Let's see the meaning. Majjanmana palamidam madhukaitapare Majjanmana palamidam madhukaitapare Matrarthaniya mad anugraha yeshayeva Majjanmana palamidam madhukaitapare Matrarthaniya mad anugraha yeshayeva Tvadvritya Britya Paricharaka Britya Britya Tvadvritya Britya Paricharaka Britya Britya Brityasya Britya Idimam Smara Lokanatha Tvadvritya Britya Paricharaka Britya Britya Brityasya Britya Idimam Brityasya Britya Idimam Smara Lokanatha Lokanatha Lokanatha. The fruit of my life is this alone. Mad janmanaha palam idam. Madhu kaitavare. O slayer of Madhu and Kaitava. Mad prarthaniya mad anugraha yesha eva. The gracious help for which I seek your blessings for this one and only boon. This one and only boon. What is the boon that I request from you? That I shall become the servant. Tad britya, britya, paricharaka britya, britya, brityasya britya, itimam. Look at the lineage here. That I shall become the servant of your servant's servant, and the servant of that servant and that servant too. Am I? Thus you remember me, O Bhagavane, Lord of the universe, that even that servant, since it happens to be your servant's servant, I am entitled to your protection. Bhaktaihi bhakta janapriyaha. Bhagavan said, I have no freedom to act against their wishes. Knowledge and austerity can evoke respect only when combined with humility and other virtues. Otherwise, all those knowledge, all that people command have absolutely no use. Of what use are your powerful asceticism and self-knowledge when you are immodest and interested only in harming others? What is the use of your power when you know that it is temporary and transient and you are only using that power to hurt others and annihilate others? Aren't we seeing that happening right in front of our eyes in this country? Bhagavan says, please go from here speedily and seek shelter at the feet of Ambarĩsha himself, whom you attempted to kill. Force employed against the righteous beings only brings harm to the striker himself. That royal sage will accept you as he has an even mind towards friends and foes. He will pardon you. Nobody else, including me, I cannot pardon you. Ambarĩsha may pardon you. He may protect you. Go back to him. Tavatsametya munina sagrihita pado. Tavatsametya munina sagrihita pado. Rajapasritya bhavadatramasavanoshi. Tavatsametya munina sagrihita pado. Rajapasritya bhavadatramasavanoshi. Chakre gade muniradat akilashishosmai tad bhakti magasi krite pi kripam cha samcham tad bhakti magasi krite pi kripam cha samcham. Tavatsametya munina sagrihita pado rajapasutya bhavadastram asavanaushit chakre gate muniradad akilashishosmai tad bhakti magasi kritepi kripam cha samshan. O Bhagavane, thus chased by your Sudarshana Chakram and as directed by you, Durvasa came back to Ambarĩsha with full of remorse, clasped the light to his feet. He did total Saranagati to Ambarĩsha by falling at his feet. The royal sage, completely embarrassed at this act of a Brahmana who was one of the greatest of ascetics and Amsha of Lord Shiva, withdrew his feet out of sheer humility and shivering extolled the Sudarshana Chakram to show total mercy on the great sage and to desist from inflicting any harm onto him. The devoted praise of Ambarĩsha cooled down Sudarshana Alvar, and that really prompted Sudarshana to go back to Lord Vishnu. Thus the sage was saved from the greatest of dangers. Durvasa praised Ambarĩsha for his devotion to you and for the kindness he showed in spite of having been offended. And finally, the sage bestowed the highest blessings on the king. Raja Pratiksha Munimeka Samamanashwanan. Raja Pratiksha Munimeka Samamanashwanan. Sambhojya Sadhu Sambhojya Sadhu Tamrushim Visrjam Prasannao. Bhuktva swayam tvai tatopi dridam rato sahayujyamapa chasamam pavanesha payah. Swayam tvai tatopi dridam rato sahayujyamapa chasamam pavanesha payah. Pavanesha payah. Pavanesha payah. Raja Pratiksha Munim Ekasamam Anashwan Sambhojya Sadhu Tamrusham Visrujan Prasannam Bhuktva Swayam Tvai Tatopi Dridam Ratobu Sayujyamapa Chasamam Pavanesha Payaha. O Guruvayurappa, an entire year had elapsed before Durvasa returned to Ambarĩsha. During all those months, the king subsisted on mere water with a firm resolve that he would eat only after feeding the sage. On the sage's return from around the entire global trip and finally to surrender unto Ambarīsha. The king Ambarīsha saved him from the Sudarshana Chakram and also entertained him then with the Purāna, food of 6 flavors, and sent him off in excellent spirits. What are these 6 flavors? Sour, pulippu; sweet, inippu; salty, uvarpu; bitter, kasapu; and astringent, tuvarpu; pungent, karpu. Thereafter, Ambarīsha ate the food that has been rendered most holy by having been offered to the great Brahmana sage Ambarīsha, the royal sage, as per traditions. Ambarīsha grew firmer and firmer in his devotion to Bhagavan and also thought, it is possible that Bhagavan himself sent the sage to evaluate me in this process. That is why it all happened. My escape from the ogress and saving of the sage from the wheel of time, Sudarshana, all are nothing but Leela of Bhagavan, and because of the greatness of all pervading Supreme. This is the humility that Ambarīsha exemplified. Ye daragara putrapta prana vitamimam param. Ye daragara putrapta prana vitamimam param. Idvaramam sharanam yadaga katam tam kyaktukam utsage. Matsevaya pratitam te Salokyadi Chatushayam Nechanti Sevaya Purnaha Udonyati Kalabhipnuto Udonyati Kalabhipnuto Tapo Vidyaja Vipranam Nisreyasakare Ube Deva Durvinitasya Deva Durvinitasya Kalpete Katuranyata Katuranyata. In the final answers of Sukha to Parikshit, Bhagavan himself summarizes this, addressing sage Durvasa. Since pure devotees give up their homes, wives, children, riches, relatives, and even their lives simply to serve me, without any desire for material improvement in this life or in the next life or any lives, how can I give up such devotees at any time? This is Bhagavan's confession. Matsevaya pratitam te salokyadi chatushtayam nechanti sevaya apurnaha kuto anyate kala viplutam. My devotees, always satisfied to be engaged in my loving service, are not interested even in the 4 principles of liberation, namely Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya and Sarshti. Although these are automatically achieved by their very service itself. What then is to be said of such perishable happiness as elevation to the higher planetary systems? Why should anybody really pray for such? Tapo vidyacha vipranam nisreyashakare ube te eva durvinitasya kalpete karturanyata. For a Brahmana, austerity and learning are certainly auspicious. But when acquired by a person who is not gentle, such austerity and learning are most dangerous to himself. At the end of his time, leaving his physical body, Ambarīsha attained Sahyujya, absolute union with Bhagavan, the ultimate bliss which is complete and permanent. Was it not the supreme result of the Dwadasi Vratam? O Bhagavane, Guruvayurappa, since you are subservient to all your devotees, as narrated in Hari-Katha, can you not protect me from my difficulties, since I am also your Bhakta? This is how Bhattadari concludes Ambarīsha Charitram. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Narayanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Guruvayurappa. Narayana 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 Narayana